Good evening, everyone. This is Ron. It's Monday evening, a little after 6 p.m. And we'll go ahead and get started tonight. We left off yesterday with Nick talking from Matthew chapter 12, verses 38 through 40. And I don't think he's here tonight. At least he didn't think he would be. But is there anyone that would like to recap for us some of the things he said? Okay. Yeah, recapping is always pretty difficult to me. I get it comes back to me as we start talking, and but I'm usually moving around or jumping around when someone's talking. I'm looking up stuff or writing something, but he did a good job of opening that up and tying it to his observations about the comet. We also had questions yesterday about the comet, the color of it, the tail, and those sort of things. So we covered a large area yesterday and a very good dialogue. So any questions at all about that or anything else that may have grabbed your attention?
Ron, did you say comet?
Yeah, the comet that is we read about comet, COMET, like an asteroid in the sky.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we were discussing that. There was an article that Nick sent out to the teachers about this comet, and we were looking at the spiritual significance of it. It was the color green, and we concluded that it is sort of tied in with the age of Aquarius and an opportunity again for us to see enlightenment and so it also, per some cultures, may be a symbol of gloom and doom, but we choose not to see it that way. We choose to see it as enlightenment and an opportunity to grow closer to the universe and see who we are, be enlightened by this event. So, and by all means, someone can help me out because I'm not the best at remembering things.
Ron, I'd like to make a comment on the comet that we talked about yesterday, where we wrapped it up in believing that it's a sign of an opportunity. We're in the opportunity of healing the world, right? Going in the direction we ought to be going. And that last night, I watched a group of environmentalists were on the news sounding the alarm that to them the comet was a sign that we are in our last ditch efforts to be good stewards of the earth. And I thought that was really kind of interesting in terms of they're seeing it as a doom and gloom sign, whereas we're seeing it as the very opposite. So
you're exactly right. That was a question because I remember the article I read talked about let's see, Alexander the Great. It talked about the Romans, but it was saying that the European nations that saw it as something negative. And I wondered if Nick had any insight, and I forgot to ask that question. Was that just from their perspective, or was that a sense of kind of a common theme with other civilizations or other nations? So I don't know. I'll tell you this though, and I think this is something that I read a long time ago, and the pastor's on, he can kind of elaborate on this. It was an article from, excuse me, what's an article? It was in a book, and it was talking about interpreting dreams. and it was talking about being righteous and how being righteous gives you opportunities to see and do things. So it talked about if you see something that you want that is possible, I mean, a positive, you want to see it as something positive, you have the right to do so. You have the right to determine that. And if you have a dream of any kind, you have a right to interpret it to mean what you want it to mean, as long as it is righteous and helping mankind. So I took that when I saw it. I thought that was something positive, and I kind of look at just about everything that way, even though people see things and think, well, this is bad, this is a hurricane, and this is a storm coming. And my thought is, okay, we don't want this to be destructive, but what good is this? Why is this happening, or does it need to happen, kind of thing. So I try to, as much as I can, understand, flip things and see the positive in them. So
Hey, Ron.
that's
Yeah,
that's
this
just
is Audrey.
my take on that. Yeah, hey, Barbara.
Audrey.
Oh, I'm sorry, Audrey. I thought you said Barbara. I'm sorry.
Well, Nick also talked about the color green of the tail, and he was talking about it represented the heart chakra. And he talked about it in terms of a healing of the heart. So rather than looking at it as doom and gloom, he was looking at it in the opposite way. And he also said something about the heart chakra being right above the whichever one is yellow that represents the sun. So
Flex, I think.
yeah, the solar plexus being yellow, and how the sun, and I was talking about how green representing new life, and green in nature takes its nourishment from the sun. So so that was a very positive interpretation to me. Anyway, that's all I wanted to add.
Thank you. That's very valuable, and yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, he did say that, and look at those things, and tying it to nature, and saying that we have signs all the time, we just don't pay attention to them. But that was extremely positive. You're exactly right. Thank you. Thank you. So, as this thing becomes more evident to the rest of the world, we will have other opinions on it, but let's hold on to what we know. Let's hold on to who we are and what we know. And we'll see where we go from there. Okay. We talk about the stuff Nick said that Audrey just reminded me of, reminded us of, and we talk about the age of Aquarius and the planets lining up and all those things. We are in a very exciting time to be in the Earth, and sometime we just stop and ponder that. What does that mean? And how do we become that energy, take advantage of that energy, or become a part of that energy? So that's exciting to me to see where we are. But thank you, everyone. Anyone else, questions or comments?
To me,
I have a question. I'm sorry, I yield.
that's right. I just have a quick thing. To me, with the planets lining up, and then the comet coming in on top of it, and then we see the comet as healing. To me, that's sort of getting everything in order.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
And that's what I was talking about when I mentioned the dream thing. We have every right to see this the way we want to see it for mankind. And I appreciate Nick's observations and everybody's input and how we see this, and we, when we get in, join the rhythm, or it all of us on the same page, that is taking advantage of the energy. That is all of us being one and moving to the light. So that's beautiful to me. Thank you. Miss Evelyn, did you have a question?
Yes, sir. First, I want to thank you and Audrey for what y'all just said. To me, that's refreshing. I don't know about anybody else, but I really appreciate what you guys just said. But we also talked about Jonah in the belly of the whale. And once we complete what you guys are talking about, I have a question about that. And my question is, just to put it out there when y'all ready to talk about it, what does it mean when, if you don't mind giving me more clarity of when we're in the belly of the whale, relating to right now in what we're going through, or just in general, when we're having a personal experience. Can you give me an example of that once you guys finish with this topic that you're talking about now?
Okay. Was there any other questions or comments on the comment portion of it, or the planets, or any of the other stuff that we started off with? Okay.
Hey, Ryan.
I think what Evelyn just said is directly related, because when he talked about Jonah, he was talking about the signs, and how Jesus said, you know, a perverse generation doesn't need a sign; they only get the sign of Jonah. So Jonah in the belly of the whale, I can attempt to answer, but I mean, if you just think about it, him being in the belly of the whale, he was probably pretty hopeless, knowing that his demise was imminent. So he was probably pretty hopeless. He didn't know how he was going to get out of there. He thought he was doomed. And we get to that place sometimes too, where we feel hopeless. We don't know what to do. We don't know how to solve the problem. And some people get to a point where they give up. Others don't. But I think that being in the belly of the whale is that point where you're either at hopelessness, or you are in the most uncomfortable place you've ever been in, and something's got to change.
Yeah, Audrey, tie that in, because the other part of that is he says, just as the Son of Man, he may not have put it this way, was in the earth for 3 days and 3 nights. So I see the 3 days and 3 nights as those are periods of enlightenment or completion. So in other words, you stay there. It's not 3 days and 3 nights as we think literally, but you stay there as long as need be until you become or see the light that you need to see. So that confusion, the night, is turned into days or periods of enlightenment. But when he compared it with himself, when he said it just as the Son of Man was in the earth, that's the part that kind of threw me. And I forget, give your explanation again, and let's see if we can tie that in.
Well, Jonah was there without any hope. He didn't know what was going to happen. But it was the opposite with Jesus. He knew what was going to happen, and he had every expectation that things would change in 3 days, whereas Jonah didn't. But And I think because Jesus spoke in parables, and sometimes he was a little brusque with people who couldn't see what was right in front of their faces. So maybe he was being a little sarcastic when he said, you know, the only sign you'll get is the sign of Jonah. Because, and I imagine most of those people who heard him speaking interpreted it as a sign of doom and gloom.
Yeah.
So, but on the other hand, that can be those 3 days when you look at it from a spiritual point of view. And it can be more than 3 days in terms of our lives today. It's something, as we've been talking about, it's something we have to go through. It's the journey that we have to make to come to the other side, to realize who we are.
Yes. Yes, that's it. And you're right. The 3 is not physical days. It's whatever it takes to complete that cycle, that journey. See, based on what you just said, I think I could not see that until Nick got into it, and when it compared with Jesus, it made me think that Jonah put himself there. With that symbolic of Jonah putting himself in a cramped space, a place, as you said, that's uncomfortable. That
well, he did, because he didn't do what he was supposed to do.
Yeah. So we put ourselves in that position, just as you said, just as Jesus did, and knowing that this is something that is unpleasant, that we're going to have to go through till this is complete. And what makes it unpleasant is the darkness, the 3 nights. You're fighting it. This is something that you're fighting. You don't necessarily want to do, or you're having a hard time understanding it, reaching out and pulling out truth from the confusion part of it.
So my question to you then, is the world in the belly of the whale? Because most people feel hopeless, and the world, this earth consciousness that we have, we put ourselves in that predicament. Does that make sense what I'm saying? And some people feel like there's no hope, and they're thinking that the end of the world is going to come. But when Audrey said you put yourself, or you, Ron, one of you guys said that we put ourselves there. That's what I'm seeing too.
I guess, and I do see your point, and somebody else speak to this as well. I see what you're saying, and the only thing I guess I'm looking at though is, when I say you put yourself there with your contemplation. You may be confused, and you don't see most of the people that are confused that we are talking about now, worldly, just the hopelessness of what's going on in the situation, the worldliness. But here, this man is, and it's not a man. It's the concept of not doing what God has called you to do. We run from this. So he put himself there because he's contemplating, do I want to do this or not? Or why do I want to say, why does he want me to do this? And that's the difference to me. So it wasn't a hopelessness as we look at the world and that type of hopelessness. It was more of a trying to understand what his task was and why he was the only one that could do this. Can somebody help with that? Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying, but I was doing it as collectively. The earth is in the shape it's in because of us. And the hopelessness part, the ones that, like you said tonight, you explained, Nick explained, Audrey, about the hopelessness, we flipping that. We flip that. We know that there's a brighter day coming. Great things are coming for mankind. But I just use the way the world is now, the destruction, all this stuff that we've done to the earth. And that's why I use that example as far as hopelessness, because again, people think there aren't any hope. There isn't any hope. But we know better now, since we've learned, you know, by having these sessions, that a brighter day is coming. Great things are coming for the earth. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, your point's well taken.
I think in the case of Jonah, I agree, Ron. His was a contemplation and then a deliberate turning away. You know how the Bible says something about, you know, knowing the truth and turning away, something like a dog going back to eat its own vomit or something like that. Yeah, that's kind of gross, but anyway. But in Jonah's case, it was a deliberate turning away. And I have a question about that, because you know how Pastor says we were brought here generations ago for this, for such a time as this, to be doing what we're doing. And then sometimes he says, because we didn't do it way back when. So, and everybody, Evelyn, has ingrained in them a part, well, I'm gonna say a part of the creator, because they don't realize that they are the creator. But everybody has the creator ingrained in them, but they don't realize it. So sometimes it takes a lot of suffering and in terms of a journey of life for you to figure it out, which can be like being in the belly of a whale until you figure it out. It can be kind of hopeless if you really don't have an opportunity to have somebody either come your way and help you realize it, or you hear something that sparks it or something. So it can be kind of like being in the belly of the whale, being hopeless, being not in the place where you're meant to be, that kind of thing.
Okay, I hear you, sister. Thank you.
Good evening, Ron and everyone. If you can hear me, I just wanted to just maybe share, something in reference to the Aramaic light in the Gospel of Matthew pertaining to the sign of the prophet Jonah. And, what it stated, I thought, again, what was interesting in what is being said, that it spoke about, Jonah being cast into the sea, was a symbolic suffering. Jonah being cast into the sea was a symbolic of Jesus suffering on the cross and his death. But it says that the prophet being swallowed by a great fish and remaining in the stomach for 3 days and nights symbolizes Jesus' burial in the tomb. And it says that the fish, releasing Jonah represented Jesus' resurrection and his victory over death. And I think that in terms of just myself giving that some thought, and in the past, we know that Jesus resurrected, but we also have the same opportunity to be resurrected. And I think that speaking on the comment and speaking on what does all of this mean, I think gives us, that hope, that we can be resurrected. So I don't know, again, if that resonates, but I just thought that it was interesting in terms of how, it was compared with Jonah and Jesus. But I think that, again, that's part of our looking at ourselves and realizing we too can be resurrected. But we have to, again, seek that and have that desire to do it. if that makes sense a little bit. But I just wanted to just share those thoughts. I'm done, Ron.
No, thank you, George. That's good. Just like creation is continuous, as Nick said the other day, these things come in cycles, and maybe this is us righting some of the wrongs that we did, as Audrey said, when we relinquish our responsibilities eons and eons ago. See, I'm under the understanding or belief, rather, be a better way of saying it, that we are the ancestors. We say that, and we think that we're talking about Granddaddy and Uncle Joe and all those folk, and we are. But I also believe that we are talking about the same spirits and souls that have been in the earth for generations ago. And that is who we are. I just believe that, and I think that's part of the reflection and what ties us in. Going back to that eighth sense thing that we looked at, that's part of who we are. And the more spiritual we become, that is the here and now. Because if you recognize that I am the ancestors and the ancestors are me, then there is no past. And if you recognize that you have been here before, you're here now, and you will more than likely be here again, and you are doing more and more and more as far as clarity and enlightenment, then all of it is right here and now. So how much do you value what we do as far as quickening time, I guess? And I don't mean that literally, but
redeeming the time.
Yeah, I like that.
That's
that.
what I think. That's what the Bible says.
Okay. So I like what you said, George. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think that's where we are right now, and it ties into what Audrey said too earlier. So. Anyone else want to speak to that?
Hey, Ron.
Yes, sir.
Charles.
Hey, Charles.
I know in that story of Jonah, he when God had told him to do something and to go to Nineveh, and he didn't want to do it because he think no one would listen to it in Nineveh. He thought there was a lost cause. But when he got thrown overboard, I'm trying to shorten it up. When he got thrown overboard, God made that fish for him to be swallowed. During them 3 days and 3 nights, he had a chance to change his mind and do what God said. But in that darkness, he was still fighting against it. But when the fish spit him out, so he decided to go do what God said, but he was still fighting against it when he went and done it. And so when he went and did what God said, so many people just got delivered from what they was into in Nineveh. And so Jonah still was, pissed off. So he walked under a Nineveh tree and still talking junk like we do ourselves. When God had told us, you want to get upset and be mad at ourselves. So God had to talk to Jonah under that tree, made him see who God really is.
Yeah,
you
understand? Exactly. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I do. You very well put. And what you remind me of, Charles, there are times that we don't recognize that we're Jonahs. We even going back to thinking, I say that ye are Elohim. That took a while. That took a while because that there is that negative part of you that say that can't be possible. that there's no way I can do that. There's no way that can be me. Who are you talking to? So from there, when Pastor talked about changing that world and changing that world, that took a while. Even changing the storms and doing those things, we had doubt about. So that thing of contemplation is real, and it can go either way. And as it sometimes does, because like I told you, I wrestled for a while saying I am Elohim, and the completion for me took a lot longer, if you want to count it days wise, than maybe some of the other people on this phone. But the 3 means completion, so it took it what it took, and that was my growth. So you're exactly right. It's as we relate to these truths that we hear, these scriptures that we hear, and put ourselves there. And not only that, we look at it and say, okay, what does that mean for me? Where are we right now? How do I apply that right now? Where am I in that place as far as doubt, as far as not being sure, or running away from things that I hear God telling me to do? So, but thank you.
And the reason why I'm saying that, Jonah thought he was more than those people than God had told him to go speak the word. He thought he was more than what them people were. He thought that people wouldn't receive this, what God said.
Yeah, he did. Did indeed. Did indeed. Thank you, Charles.
And one more question, Ron. When we were talking about resurrection, what is resurrection, and where did the word resurrection come from?
To resurrect something means to bring it back to life or to restore it, to bring it back to its original state. I don't know the origin of it. I have to look that up. What we usually do in situations like that, look up where it was first and how it was first used in the scriptures. But that's what it means. And if anybody else can help me with that, please feel free.
Does it also mean uncovered truth?
Yeah, the recovery of truth. Yes.
Yes. Okay, I thought so.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I usually try to do. I'm gonna write down that question, and hopefully remember to look at it, Charles.
Because it's restoring it back into the same as it was before, or restoring it better than it was before.
I guess the truth is truth, and I don't know if you can restore it better. I think it's just uncovering what you did not see or did not know, or that you have covered over. So the restoring to its original state is you that is being restored. You see what I mean? I think we're kind of saying the same thing, but I'll take a look at it, and maybe we can start there Saturday. And Evelyn, if you would please write your question down, because I had the feeling that you still kind of contemplating that. So if so, write it down, and we can talk about it Saturday when everybody is on the line. That be okay?
Okay. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I think also, Ron, what may be a good scripture to look at or to consider. I know that was just one of Jesus's I am saying, and he says, I am the resurrection and the life.
Uh-huh.
But I think that's
Where is that, George?
yeah, now I'm basically trying to look up that now. I know it's in John
Okay.
14.
John 14, that's all I need to know. Okay. I like the questions, y'all. I mean, we'll get them answered. May not be tonight, but we definitely will get them answered. Okay. Anything else? Anyone else? Okay. I want to. I mentioned to you the other day, Matthew chapter 12. Really, really intrigues me, and I was looking at this, as I told you yesterday, or whatever that it was, maybe Sunday, Saturday. I had started looking at this a couple of weeks ago, and I had more questions than answered. And that happens quite frequently. I'll tell you, you have no idea how many times I leave something alone because I don't see it. I don't mind that. And I don't mind that I don't see it all. I just want enough to get us started, to get a lesson going, especially if I see something in it that pertains to us. And one of the things I saw in this chapter, I started looking at the beginning of it. Then I got down to verses 22, and when they said Jesus was a demon, casting out demons only by Beelzebub, the ruler of the demons, that kind of got my attention. It got my attention because I thought about something Pastor said to us a number of years ago. The closer you get to God, the more ungodly it seems. So here you see religion not recognizing what truth looks like. They don't see what he's doing. In a lot of ways, we saw the same thing in 1 Samuel when Eli was watching the lips of Hannah. He did not recognize what her prayer and supplication looked like. He had never seen that before, so he thought it was something negative. He thought she was drunk because it was something unfamiliar to him. So those things kind of stood out to me. But I got to looking at this chapter a little closer, and a couple words really, really kind of jump out at me. And we don't have to go verse by verse, but something I want to look at here. I'm going probably, where do I want to start reading? I guess I'll start in verse 1 and kind of walk forward. But again, it's not necessarily just to talk about each verse, but and at that time, Jesus went on the Sabbath. I'm sorry, y'all, in Matthew chapter 12, verse 1, okay? Because I looked at this and I don't see everything because I got to the point where we were the other day when Nick was looking at Jonah. I looked at that as well, and I had no understanding of it. So so much stuff in here. But let's look at a couple of words here. At that time, Jesus went on the Sabbath through the grain fields, and his disciples became hungry and began to pick the heads of grain and eat. And when the Pharisees saw it, they said to him, "Behold, your disciples do what is not lawful to do on the Sabbath, a Sabbath." But when he said to them, "Have you not read what David did when he became hungry, and he and his companions, and how he entered the house of God, and they ate the consecrated bread, and which was not lawful for him to eat, nor for those who with him, but for the priest alone? Or have you not read in the law that on the Sabbath the priests in the temple break the Sabbath and are innocent? But I say to you that something greater than the temple is here. But if you had known what this means, I desire compassion and not a sacrifice, you would not have condemned the innocent. For the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath. That's through verse 8. What is the Sabbath? Let's talk about the Sabbath for a minute. And why do these things happen? What's the significance of all of this happening on the Sabbath? What do we get from that? When you
Ron?
look it up, yes, sir.
I know you're going to look it up, but I'm trying to, tell the way I understand it. Ain't the Sabbath is the rest of God?
Yeah, that's what we've learned, Charles. It means to rest. And we get that in Genesis when we say God rested on the seventh day. But what does it mean? We're looking at it from a spiritual perspective. What does it mean for us? Yeah. What does it mean for us?
Maybe the same thing. I mean that we as humans, maybe we need our minds need to rest, break from all of the junk and the stuff that come our way, or that we hold in and won't let go of.
You're on the right track, Kathy. You're exactly right. The rest is not a physical thing as we may think it is. Sabbath has the same root as shalom, and which is peace. So when it starts talking about Sabbath, it does mean to cease and desist. It means to bring something to an end, but it also talks about being complete. It talks about moving yourself into a position that you not only restore yourself, but you restore others as well. So, for example, I go through my week and I have an issue with my boss or with my brother or whatever. I restore him. That's what Sabbath is about. I take that relationship back to where it was. So the completion part talks about making space so that you can not only be in rhythm with the universe, but you're making space to restore things back to their original state, back to what it was before. So not only are you making that restoration, but you're preparing it for what's to come the next time. Like someone just said earlier, I forgot, lost my thought. But you not only restoring that, you're bringing it to a place of something gained rather than something lost. So if I look at every time you look at a situation and it's bad, I can't think anything. You're late for work. You got up late and you're late for work, or you're angry with somebody and you guys had a dispute. You meditate on that. You make room in your heart to restore that relationship. You do everything in your power to fix that thing. So you not only are fixing it within you, you are working on the person that you have had the fault with. So what was has come across as a negative thing should be something that you gain. Should be something that is enriched and strengthened by you having this this encounter. So these things, a lot of times, as we talked before, even some of those negative thoughts we have that you wonder, why is this going through my head? It is an opportunity for Sabbath. Sabbath is not waiting for Sunday. Sabbath is taking that moment to be still. Taking that moment to be still, to reflect, to contemplate. And when we get used to that, when we get used to those meditations, we can be at work, we can be anywhere and still take a Sabbath and connect to everything, be in rhythm with the universe. Sabbath is reconnecting. So that any questions or he talks about the Son of Man as Lord of the Sabbath. That's he's talking about us. The human is Lord of the Sabbath. You are the one that connects things in the earth. You are the one that brings things together that seem to be broken. You are the one that fixes relationships.
And Ron, that doesn't mean we have to be in church all day, right? You don't even have to be in church to enjoy the Sabbath.
Yeah, this is not talking about church at all. This is not talking about Sunday at all, or Saturday, whatever your Sabbath day is. This is talking about you or getting off this phone right now and going into Sabbath, going into a meditation, clearing space inside of you to restore yourself, those thoughts that are in you, the day you've had, that you've had a rough day today, or you just never felt comfortable today, it never got in rhythm. You take a deep breath and you go inside yourself. And you set the mood, and you set you reflect on what happened, and you deal with it. You embrace it. You embrace it. You don't try to toss it aside or pretend it didn't happen. It is an opportunity. There are opportunities for you. So, any questions about that?
Yeah, Ron, this is Jackie. Question for you, and you said something earlier. We've been taught that the Sabbath is Sunday, and you just said
Yes.
whatever your Sabbath is. Do you care to elaborate on that when you say whatever your Sabbath is, Saturday or Sunday? Because I'm still kind of torn between, with that question. Is it Saturday or is it Sunday?
Jackie, is neither. Here's the thing. We are walking, those days are religious concepts. Saturdays are the religions I think of that worship on Saturdays are the Jews and Jehovah's Witnesses, and Sundays the days of the Gentiles. But those are from religion. But as you live in your soul, as you live in your spirit, your Sabbath can be every moment of your life. Every breath, every time you take a breath, every time you contemplate something, every time you wonder and say, where did that thought come from? What does that mean? And move inside of yourself to turn it into light. Every time you have a disagreement or see somebody that you had a falling out with in your heart, it came to your heart because it is time for you to deal with it. So not only are you restoring that person, you're restoring yourself. And you're strengthening yourself. So Sabbath, the true essence of Sabbath has absolutely nothing to do with a day of the week. I know that's different. That's a hard thing to swallow. But we're moving away, or we have moved away from religious concepts. We are spiritual beings. And as we uncover truth, those are the things that we see. You are in Sabbath any day of the week you decided to put yourself there.
Hey, Ron.
Yes, ma'am.
I know years ago we had a study about this. And we were talking about in Genesis, where it was going through like the first day, the second day, whatever. And then I think we concluded in that study that the Sabbath, when it came to the Sabbath, the day of rest, that day was never closed out. Like for all the other days, it said the morning and the evening of the first day, morning, evening of the second day. But when it got to the Sabbath day, that day of rest, it never closed out like the other days did. So in effect, we are always living in the Sabbath. It's just what we make of it.
Thank you, Audrey. I forgot about that. You're exactly right. Does that make sense, y'all? Do you see what we're saying, Jackie?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
It's
Okay. Yeah. So here's what I'm seeing. I see this when Jesus talked about, even with David, and he's talking about this now with his disciples. This is created by the Sabbath. The Sabbath gives you, if you can see it spiritually, the Sabbath gives you what is needed. And this spiritual, this food that they're eating, you talk about David eating the bread and David eating the corn and the disciples eating the corn. This is not talking about physical food. The Sabbath provides what nourishment is necessary. It restores your energy. It brings you back to where you were before whatever the situation that has you famished or feeling weakened or needing some type of replenishing. That's what this is saying. Okay? Does anybody see anything they want to talk about? Because I got another question.
Ron, I have a question before you go any
Yes,
further.
ma'am.
Use the word corn. Is corn, and you said is to nourish, to renew energy. Is corn, the term corn, used because it's a staple?
I don't know. I did not look that up. I did not. Does anybody have any idea?
Well, I do know that it says they were gathering grain.
Okay.
I don't know what version says corn, but corn is a New World crop, so it probably wouldn't have been there.
But then the term grain then would denote
Maybe wheat or rice or barley.
Okay, but that is denoting substance.
A
energy,
staple,
right?
yeah, a
Okay.
staple, sure.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, corn was my word. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Any questions?
Hey, Ron.
Yes, sir.
When she was saying that that Sabbath mean it will never close, so that means what I'm seeing that you can always be in the presence of the Father at any time, anywhere. You won't need the priest to go and talk before you, because Jesus don't make the way for you.
Exactly, Charles.
Yeah. And I'm looking, y'all, trying to see something else I wanted to pull out of here. The Son of Man, Lord of the Sabbath, and parting from there, he went into the synagogue, and behold, there was a man with a withered hand. And they questioned him, saying, is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath, in order that they might accuse him? And he said, what man shall there be among you who should have one sheep, and if it falls into a pit on the Sabbath, will he not take hold of it and lift it out? Or how much more value then is a man than a sheep? So then it is lawful to do good on the Sabbath. Then he said to the man, stretch out your hand. and he stretched it out, and it was restored to normal like the other. That was the part that I was saying. The Sabbath is a part of so the man's authority is restored to him. This is talking about more than just his hand. This is talking about more than just his physical hand. So, looking at this from a spiritual, the spiritual portion of this, Jesus restores this man not only the physical hand, but his dignity, his authority. He restores him back to his original state. So this is part of all of these are examples he's showing us of what the Sabbath are, and it has as much to do as that contemplation or that meditation I'm talking about is not always just for you. So going inside of yourself, we go inside of ourselves all the time. It may be, I got to work this morning and found out a young man had a heart attack this weekend and died. And this kid may have been, somebody said 30, somebody said 32, but he was a very young guy. And that bothered me, and it bothered a lot of people. And I immediately, before, without even thinking about it, just kind of went inside of myself. Not only for him, but for his family and the people there that were feeling that. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. You are the human. You are the Son of Man. And as we understand that and walk in that, the spiritualness of it takes over. You don't even have to think about it. It just takes over. You just have to be the willing vessel. So that thing that you're making space for, the thing that is helping you be fruitful, is you are willing to make space for whatever you are to become, whatever it needs to be filled with, so that you can make changes, so that you can be one with the universe at any given time of the day. Verse 14, but the Pharisees went out and counseled together against him as to how they might destroy him. But Jesus, aware of this, withdrew from there, and many followed him, and he healed them all and warned them not to make known, in order that what was spoken through Isaiah the prophet might be fulfilled, saying, "Oh, behold my servant who I have chosen, my beloved, in whom my soul is well pleased. I will put my spirit upon him, and he shall proclaim justice to the Gentiles. And he will not quarrel nor cry out, nor will anyone hear his voice in the streets. A battered reed he will not break off, and a smoldering wick he will not put out, until he leads justice to victory. And in his name, the Gentiles will hope." That was the part I wanted to get to, but it didn't make sense to start there. You almost had to go to the beginning. I don't really need to go to chapter 11. But who are the Gentiles? Who are the Gentiles? That can be confusing. When you look it up, Gentiles is going to say anyone who's a non-Jew. But what does that mean? The word Gentile comes from a word that means nation, or nations. And what nations is it talking about? The first set of nations is talking about, because you can kind of look some of this up, because I was looking at Matthew 10 and 6 and Matthew 15 and 24, where Jesus talks about the lost tribes. So the 10 lost tribes of Israel were Gentiles. As you may remember, when they were captured by the Greeks, they were captured into captivity. It was unlawful for them to eat or practice their religion. So a lot of them adopted the ways of the Greek. Those are Gentiles. So they are the Gentiles. So were the people who came out of Egypt with the Hebrews, and God said to them, you are to treat them just as though they are part of the family. He called them aliens. Treat the aliens just like you would. In other words, they're entitled to everything that you're entitled to. So when you look at Gentiles, it is not talking about a name per se. It's talking about anyone who is a seeker of truth, anyone who wants to walk in the line and forsake everything that you have witnessed or seen or become a part of in religion, and have given that up to walk away to see God. Like the lost tribes were the ones who had walked away from the teachings of Yahweh. They knew better. But most of these Gentile nations were nations or clans or tribes that did not know God. So that kind of stood out to me, that looking at that those verses. Any questions, y'all? Any questions or comments?
A lot tonight. It was good.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, then why don't we stop right here then? And
Hey, Ron, before we get off,
yeah.
This is Angela. I got a question.
Okay.
Going back to the 12th chapter when we had verse 1. What was the you might have said it, but I missed it. What was the purpose of Jesus walking through the grain field? Was he trying to show, I guess, the way the Pharisees might have looked at the Sabbath day, which is the way they looked at it, but was it, I know it was a purpose, but why did he walk through it?
That was that was my question too, and that's what I said. I think when you become one with the Sabbath, you gain what is needed. So it is indicative of that which is needed at the time is there. So it's not so much that he went out of his way to walk through the grain field, is that he became one with whatever he needed to be to at the time. That's what I saw there.
Hello. How are you?
Does that make sense?
Yours?
Y'all mute your phones for me, please.
The lady gave me $3 to help her put water in the car. Somebody
Please
did
do.
my work for me.
Did you work for you? What you mean, did you work for you?
Like, close to that, it's a bunch of stuff.
Please
Kevin.
mute your phones.
Kevin, mute your phone.
Okay. There was on Saturday, Angela, and you've heard Pastor talk about this before, and some of us has done it. And this is kind of the same thing. I got a deed. I was giving my cousin some land, and I gave him a deed. And anymore, you used to be able to go to the courthouse and fill out some papers, get it notarized, and it was done. But now you got to go through a lawyer. So I had these papers, and I put them somewhere and couldn't find them. And I thought he had a copy, and I couldn't find them anywhere. So I sat down Saturday, and I thought, okay, I need those papers, and I need them now. I need to send him these papers before Monday morning. And something told me, go look in that gray book bag in the room. I go and look for the gray book bag, and I got 2 loads of clothes on top of it from when I did laundry. I hate folding laundry. But I knew it was, and I went and dug it out and looked in it. And sure enough, the papers are in it. I don't remember putting them there, but I live by myself. I can't blame anybody else. So what I'm saying is, when you become one with your spiritual self and with the universe, things reveal themselves to you. Things, you become one with things. So the grain field is not, I don't see it as him going out of the way to it. It's just when he needed food appeared. That's what I'm saying. Out of looking at this from a spiritual perspective, what is needed will always be there.
Okay, so the spiritual enlightenment, that's what.
Yeah, it is all enlightenment. Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah. It's no different than you having you know, like you're in a job you hate, and you having faith. You just know, you know what, something else is going to come. I'm going to get something else soon, and a job appears. It didn't just appear out of nowhere. You brought it to you. That sort of thing. And I'm saying even more so when we spread that type of energy towards other people. Make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. Thank you.
Can anybody else explain that a little differently? Okay. Well, why don't we hold up right here then, and kind of think about what we've talked about, and I'll look up the questions that were asked, and we will resume Saturday morning.
Yeah, Ron, if I may, before you exit.
Of course.
On the resurrection, that particular verse, actually John chapter 11, verse 25, just for, anyone who wanted to look at that, but I just wanted to give you the actual correct scripture.
Okay, and I'll look it up and be ready for Saturday. Okay? Thank you, George. Anyone else? Anything to grab our attention?
This is Vermel. Audrey, George, and Ron, thank you for today's answers to questions. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. This one, well, never mind. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, great job, guys.
Well, you guys have an awesome week. And remember, Sabbath is always in you. You're always in Sabbath. Just recognize who you are, and look forward to Saturday morning. Thanks again.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
All right.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Have a good week.
Bye.
Bye.